Welcome back, Inter-Alliance family. We hope you had a really amazing week, and we're so thankful that you are joining us again today. My name is Heather Ackles. I'm the Executive Director of Inter-Alliance of Greater Cincinnati, and I am thrilled to join you tonight for the keynote, the preview, and all the amazing things we have on the schedule. So if we could go to the slides, I just wanted to share with you all of the amazing things we've accomplished this week together. So if we can go to the next one. As all of you are aware, it is Cybersecurity Week. Everything that we have done has either revolved around cybersecurity or it has been a part of your career development journey. So to the next slide. We were joined last weekend by Rachel Cochran from FIS, and she gave us an incredible presentation on cybersecurity careers, some of the opportunities that exist, and she walked us through what it is and what it's not, which was really valuable for me. I really enjoyed her presentation. Next slide. We were able to jump into a ton of different workshops where you guys were able to learn new skills, flex your existing skills, and overall just get prepared for the next step of your career. We did LinkedIn training, GitHub training that happened today, resume writing, which I personally enjoyed because I led that training, and I hope you also enjoyed it. And then, of course, a fan favorite, lock picking. So everyone got their own lock picking kit that was able to join that session. Next slide. Beyond all of the amazing hands-on workshops, you guys were presented with a ton of breakout opportunities. And that's from personal branding to what the heck is in the inside of my computer and why does it work? We talked about drones. We talked about internships. Today, Johnson & Johnson Ethicon led an incredible presentation on different life-saving devices. Zafar from Kroger went through robotic process automation and so much more. Next slide. And then what would TechOlympics be without competitions and fun, right? So we did another Jackbox game. We had some Among Us. I know that some of you spent a very long time today playing Minecraft with my Leadership Council kids. We had wiki races, and of course, our amazing partners at NKU led us through Capture the Flag, as well as a virtual escape room. So an amazing, amazing day, amazing week of competitions. Next slide. So this is the roll-up. This is pretty incredible. In 1 week, and not even 7 full days, because we took a couple of days off, but in not even 1 week, we covered so much when it comes to cybersecurity, everything from the career aspect to the actual implementation. So we genuinely hope that you learned a lot. We hope that you were inspired by the different presenters that we had, and you made some of those networking connections that are meaningful, again, for you to take that step next in your career. Next slide. So as you know, Cybersecurity Week is concluding, and we are now jumping into Art Tech. And our presenters tonight are from Miami University and other partners around the city, and they're going to talk to you about some of the emerging technology that's not just changing careers, but changing industries. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to this amazing group to enlighten you on what's happening around us.
Welcome to this keynote address called Content Creation and the Game Engine Frontier. The goal I'd like for us today is to understand if you're a gamer or a person that is interested in creating video games, that you understand that there's a whole other world developing out there of opportunity in industry, whether it's film or whether it's commercial work, whether it is video game and esports presentations, that you get a feel for all the opportunities out there that you can explore if you just have some interest and understanding of the way game engines work. So hopefully we'll get there. My name is Ben Nicholson, and I'm a visiting instructor at Miami University. I work with Tim DeMarks. And what we do in our department is we sit between technology, design, and also some social media and marketing aspects of things, which really our department started with web design and how web and technology interacted with traditional graphic design. So we have a technology core and that we bleed out into art. And what I work on is this area of new and emerging stuff with video games and also with XR stages and new media, VR, IR, all that stuff is stuff that we teach in our department. If you want more information, definitely talk to Tim DeMarks about Miami and what we're doing in the Emerging Technology and Business and Design department. I also have a side gig, which I'm a creative producer and experience director, where I talk to people about how they can do things in this space that we're about to see. So we're really pleased to welcome Lightborne, who happen to also be in Cincinnati and happen to be friends of mine. Brian McAllister, creative director, Lauren Bentel, producer, and Justin Lee, animator, designer. And they're going to take us through where their paths were to get into this type of industry, but also what they do on a daily basis over there that might interest you if you're in the sphere of game engine and content creation. Okay, so I'm going to give you a quick primer so that we can understand a little bit about what they're going to talk about. And it's going to start with this, the GPU, which is the graphics processing unit. We have entered into a revolution of graphics processing that has been unheard of up until this point. So if you're a gamer, you know what I'm talking about. My boys are over there in the next room playing on a PlayStation 5, and the graphics are very, very real. What's going on in that machine is the same thing that's happening on my computer here in my office, which is I can create realistic scenes pretty quickly and convincingly that render at a real-time rate. So the GPU revolution comes from the place that we can render things that are very real in real time. And though Lightborne's going to talk about that in terms of their progression, because they were and still are a traditional graphic motion design house, but they ventured into this world of Unreal, Unity, and Notch, different things like that, that allow them to work in real time and not have to render things out in a traditional way, like through Cinema 4D per se. Right? So we are here because of the GPU. Again, I've mentioned these before, the tools that are of the trade for us that are in these immersive content creation spaces, whether it be IR, VR, game engine, screen content, is Cinema 4D is a modeling tool that if you don't know it, you should learn it. And it's also a renderable timeline to create 3D environments. So you learn texturing and modeling in that. You can get it for free as a student. You can also learn Maya. I think Justin might have started on Maya. I could be mistaken, maybe not. Notch is another program that you can get a demo version of that is a fairly easy to use program and learn in the same environment. And of course, there's Unreal Engine. If you're interested in this field, go onto Unreal Engine and get the tools as soon as humanly possible and start doing the tutorials. You will make yourself extremely valuable for the future, and it isn't just for video games. Looped into this is another funny program that is one of my favorites, and it's Touch Designer. And not getting too much in the weeds, you should go to Touch Designer's website and look at the projects that they make with this in the interactive immersive world. It's a lot of touch screen interaction, abstract graphics. It is a visual processing unit. So if you know things like Python, or you know anything that is a visual coding language, you can practice that within Touch Designer. All right, so we all know this by now, pretty much. And if you haven't watched behind the scenes of The Mandalorian to understand what I'm talking about, this is called the volume at Industrial Light and Magic. And it is an immersive environment that's powered by Unreal Engine that they can switch out backgrounds and make sets come to life and light the entire set. This is what has caused a bunch of the buzz in this world that we speak of, and in terms of virtual production and game engines. But they're using Unreal Engine to build movies and not do green screen effects. So you can go on to Disney Plus and watch the behind the scenes and see how they're doing this. They're pretty open about explaining how all this stuff works. Additionally, what Lightborne does and what I used to do is do a lot of visuals for concerts. And why that's important is because concerts need some real-time interaction and are fast-paced and need a lot of changes. So there's a lot of game engine opportunity to create concerts for rock and roll shows. EDM loves this environment, whether it's deadmau5 or anybody else is working in all generative content environments. XR is the big buzzword too. So if you saw Katy Perry on American Idol, you saw Billie Eilish, there's a bunch of other ones, Jay Blavin. What was yours, Ryan, that you guys did? Was it Jay Blavin?
Yeah, we did J Balvin inside of Fortnite for Halloween.
Yes, you should definitely check that one out. So XR, all that means is it's adding an environment to the stage and the screen and expanding the world space. So it's not just the volume that's being manipulated with the Mandalorian, it's the space beyond the screen that they're ripping, right? Rides and amusement parks. Amusement parks are using Unreal Engine to do the media and the rides. The Millennium Falcon ride, if you've been on it, is powered by Unity and Unreal behind the scenes. Also, the rides themselves can be driven by the game engines and the mechanics of it. Theater, same thing with rock and roll. A lot of this new sets are being done in Unreal Engine and in Unity. Brand experience and architecture and installation is a huge place where this stuff is happening as well, so that I can go into an exhibit and have an interactive experience. And that is also built around game engines. Touch Designer plays a lot in this arena. Fashion is a big thing. So fashion installations, fashion shows are using these Unreal environments, these unrendered environments. And then previs, and all previs means is that I can see what's going to be built someday. So this is a rock and roll stage previs, but you could do an architectural previs. So if you want to be an architect, that's a big deal in Unreal Engine right now. There's a thing called Twin Motion that they just started. If you haven't tried it, it's kind of like a really simple entryway into Unreal Engine, where you can manipulate, houses and apartments and all those things to sort of see how textures play. And then jobs in these areas, I'm not going to go into much detail, but there's a lot of jobs in a lot of industries, and I didn't even put like architect on here. But if you look at what people are building with Unreal, especially if you follow Unreal Engine on social media, you're going to see a ton of opportunities that if you just understand this base skill set and how things work, whether it's virtual production architecture, that there is a lot of future opportunities for you in this sort of wide open world of content creation and the game engine being used not just to create video games. With that, I'm going to introduce Lightborne and let them talk about their business and what they do. And they're going to keep me honest. Did I hit it in my sprint of the world of which you play? Or did I forget anything?
That seems about right. Yeah.
Great. Give me your stamp of approval. So tell me about Lightborne, Ryan. Who are you? Where you come from as a company? First.
Sure. So Lightborne is an animation, graphic design, motion graphics, production, and post-production studio. So we kind of do anything that has to do with film or animation, soup to nuts. And we focus on traditional advertising. So like branded content and commercials and long form videos and things like that. But then we also do the kind of stuff that Ben was just talking about, more of like the experiential concert visuals. And we're getting into more of these like virtual and XR type events and spaces these days. So it's kind of all over the place. I think that I kind of cut my teeth at Lightborne doing the rock and roll stuff. And that's sort of, a big focus of what we still do. But there's our website. But yeah, we're kind of all over the place. Animation studio, though, is really how I sum it up. We still pretty much, when it comes down to it, what we do is animate stuff, and we used to render it a lot. But as to Ben's point, now we're getting to the point where we can just animate it and not have to render it anymore. Lauren or Justin, do you guys want to chime in and add anything to Lightborne's credentials?
No, I think that's pretty much covers it. We do a little bit of everything, really.
Make really pretty stuff.
Make pretty stuff. I like that. Because it's one thing to make stuff. It's another thing to make it look good, right, man?
Yeah. And to that point, I mean, I guess another thing that we do is sometimes we're a hired gun and we just make pretty stuff, but we also do a lot of the creative for the things that we make as well. And so somebody will come to us with a concept, and we'll kind of walk you guys through a project here in a minute, and we'll sort of brainstorm it, write it, and execute it from beginning to end.
Great. So tell me about, and you're in Cincinnati, right?
Yeah,
So
correct.
that's an important thing. So I think one of the myths to get over is that you have to live in New York or Los Angeles to make cool things. And that is not true, right?
No, especially these days, really, and now that people aren't traveling very often, unfortunately, you really can be anywhere and do this kind of thing as long as you have a decent internet connection.
Got it. So let's start with you since you're the one talking. Give me,
Sure.
how did you get to do what you do for a living? Where did you start?
So I guess, I mean, I've always been interested in art, and I've kind of had a natural proclivity towards drawing and loved animation from the time I was a kid. And so I ended up going to school for what was called back in the day, in the early 2000 aughts, digital design, which was a lot of like learn how to code a website and use Flash, which doesn't exist anymore as of this year, I think. Uh, but that also got me super interested in animation. And I worked in sort of the more corporate design space for about 3 months after graduating from college, and left my job and walked down the street to do an interview at Lightborne with Ben, who used to work there and was the creative director there at the time, and got hired there as a designer, first and foremost, and then as an animator. And that was kind of right when Lightborne was starting to do a lot of the more rock and roll type concert visual stuff. And I got the bug with that, and it's just been a wild ride ever since then.
So what's your primary tool set every day? What programs do you open?
So right now, I'm just looking at my toolbar. I have After Effects, Cinema 4D, InDesign, Illustrator, Photoshop open. I also have this in front of me all the time. My notebook, idea notebook, and sketchbook. Everything usually starts with a drawing for me still, because that's just how I get them out of my head. And then they immediately move into software, usually Photoshop or Illustrator, to get a design down on paper. But I mean, as a creative director, a lot more these days, what I'm doing is just getting the initial kernel of an idea down. I also have, my iPad that has Procreate on it, which is just like a digital sketchbook for me these days. And I hand it off to somebody like Justin, who is much faster and more talented than I am inside of the actual software to get things going. And I also, I'll crack open Unreal every once in a while to poke around and get stuff designed. But usually to get an idea off the ground, it's that Adobe suite in the sketchbook, and coffee, lots of coffee.
All right. Okay, cool. So let's go to Lauren. So Lauren, tell us what you do every day, and then work your way back of how you got there.
Sure. I'm a producer here at Lightborne. I've been here for about 6 years now, which is awesome. I guess every day my job is to kind of make sure that the clients have everything they need and that my team has everything that they need to execute whatever the client wants. So I'm kind of in charge of scheduling, budgets, deadlines, making sure all the assets that we need are in place and organized. So I'm kind of just the big communicator between everybody. That's basically what I do. Lots of emails, lots of phone calls and text messages. And then to get to this place, I actually went to college in Florida and have a degree in entertainment business. And then I moved to LA, where I became an assistant. Like, I'm sure so many people start off as assistants in LA, but I was an assistant to the VP of the LA Film School. And then I worked my way up to being the scheduling and resource manager there. So I scheduled basically the classes and all the student films, and then naturally kind of progressed to being a production coordinator at an advertising agency, where we made commercials for video games and toys mainly. And then I became a producer there after a little bit. And then I worked at Apple for a little bit, making iPhone commercials, and I did not like that very much. So then I found Lightborne and decided that I would move closer to home, which is Indiana for me. And it just worked out. So here I am.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I have questions for you later, but we'll come back because I want to make sure
Sure.
we hit everybody.
Sounds good.
Well, I will say, so do jobs work if Lauren's not involved, Justin and Ryan?
No, absolutely not. Even if it's not a job, just a day. Just a normal day.
Things
And
evolve.
you know, in our industry, they're called producers, project managers, but what they really are leaders, right? I mean, these guys get their marching orders from Lauren every single day, and she's got to keep it in line, correct, Lauren?
Yeah, and Ryan. But it really is a team effort. Like in my mind, none of this would happen without all of us. So we have a very strong team, which is super helpful, and they're easy to lead. So yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
But
All
yeah,
right.
Lauren does keep us on the rails.
So
Big
I'm gonna
time.
do a little bit of process talk. So Lauren gets a call from a job. It goes to Ryan, say, hey, these guys want to do a design for this thing. Ryan thinks up a design, and then once he's got the design, or while he's making the design, he goes and talks to Justin, correct? So maybe do the handoff, Ryan, of like, how do you see Justin in your workflow, and how does he come in, and then he'll sort of introduce himself.
So yeah, so usually we're moving so fast a lot of times that like I might get as far as like getting a couple of sketches down, and then the other thing that I should have brought up earlier is Pinterest. I use Pinterest like like I'm a mom. I just have hundreds of Pinterest boards, and I'll like slap together a bunch of references, and because like I said, Justin is going to realize a design so much better and cooler than I could in the amount of time that I usually have. So I will take the crude concept that was, or the ask from the client that Lauren brought to me, sort of come up with a scaffolding of an idea for it, and then hand that off to Justin and let him run with it.
Okay. So before you start running, Justin, give us a lowdown. Who are you? How'd you get where you are?
Yeah, Justin Lee. Been with Lightborne for 5 years now. Been doing something to the effect of this for almost 15 years. I had to look it up because I thought I was going crazy. So yeah, I had always had an interest and a knack for video editing. It actually started in 9th grade. I had a social studies teacher introduced me to Avid Cinema, and ever since then I've been like absolutely hooked on doing things on the computer and coming up with stuff. So ever since then, I've had this kind of like side relationship with video editing, working in After Effects, working in 3D. At that point, it was 3ds Max, but then it moved over to Cinema 4D, and now to Unreal. So I would say while I'm originally from Central Kentucky, the Lexington area, and that's where I started learning how to kind of do this stuff on my own. There wasn't a lot of lyndas.com and tutorial places, so I kind of had to kind of just force my way through a lot of this, so it's a lot of self-taught stuff. And then I was lucky enough to get a couple of internships in Lexington, and that kind of led me to getting an actual job for an agency in Lexington, or in Richmond, called Coomer Media Group, which is now defunct, but it gave me the opportunity to work on a couple of TV shows and get my feet wet with actually doing production work. And then an agency randomly found me, LPK found me while I was in Richmond and brought me up to Cincinnati, and that's how I got up here. And kind of during that time, a friend of mine moved to Lightborne, Kevin Gartrud, and he actually was my connect to Lightborne. So I did the very same thing that Ryan did. I just walked across the street to Lightborne for an interview, and I was already kind of hype about wanting to work there, and it was pretty much love at first sight. I lost you, Ben. I think you're muted.
So give me what are the tools you work with every single day?
Tools I work with every single day: After Effects, Cinema 4D, and Unreal. Those are pretty much the tools that we've been using a whole lot lately. I personally like using Premiere just for like an organizational sake. Like I'll organize a lot of clips and files and stuff before I get into any program, but pretty much it's just After Effects, Cinema 4D, and Unreal, especially now.
Great. So we got about 6 to 8 minutes left by my time clock. Tim, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. So let's get into it and sort of show kind of the behind the curtain, and then if we have time, we'll come back to the personal end of things.
Can I share the screen?
Oh yeah, hold
Yes.
on. Yes, that's me, right?
Yeah.
So while Justin's pulling this up, I'll give a little background on this project. This was a company called Ansys that reached out to us because of COVID. They couldn't get together and do their annual sales kickoff in, you know, a giant hotel ballroom with thousands of people all together, elbow to elbow, partying. So they wanted to, because what they do, they're a software simulation company. So they make stuff that simulates physics in the real world. So they sell products to, you know, the military, to they work on a lot of like autonomous vehicle stuff, doing simulations for that kind of thing. So they kind of came to us and they were like, we want to do a virtual conference. And we were like, that sounds awesome. We're going to do that in Unreal Engine. And the original intent was to shoot it on an XR stage, but the pandemic got worse and worse. So it ended up being more of a green screen compositing into an Unreal environment situation. But building everything in Unreal gave us the ability to be really nimble and essentially shoot the thing from whatever angle we wanted to. So we built out this kind of cool futuristic, the whole theme of the event was kind of like DC superhero inspired. So it kind of has like this futuristic Hall of Justice thing that you'll see when Justin pulls it up. We didn't get to hearken to Union Terminal very much. We did have one design, but that they kind of like blew past that one and ended up with this more slick kind of thing. But it was cool because you can do when you're making things in Unreal for production, you can put real-time compositing of elements in front of and behind people. So we had speakers giving presentations where they would have screens behind, like virtual screens behind them, and then like holographic elements that would appear that were enhancing their presentation in front of them in space in real time.
I think I can pull it up now. Let me go ahead and do that. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
So yeah, this is the main scene that we're looking at here. So this would be the main stage. We're in Unreal now. So what you're seeing is a bunch of lights. These like little light bulbs are basically a graphical representation of a light and how far that light reaches. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it off just so you guys can get a better look at the actual stage itself. So as Ryan said, it's kind of like a Hall of Justice superhero sort of thing going on, which I really dig. And actually, if I move, going the wrong way. So if I move the camera up, you can kind of see we had multiple stages that we referenced to throughout the whole event. So we had multiple stages where different people talk and kind of do their thing and showing their PowerPoint slides and stuff that show up. So yeah, it's actually been really cool. Going back to what Ryan had mentioned, I don't think that we would have been able to get this project done if it had not been for Unreal and its ability to kick this stuff out in such a fast rate. Because I mean, we had hours and hours of footage. I can't even like remember how much, but it was everybody had at least an hour and a half presentation, and we had to figure out how to do all of that and render it out in the 3D world, and Unreal provided that for us.
Justin, do you have a scene that has one of the dudes comped into it by any chance?
Yes, I do. And I will say, let me see. Sometimes intro, outro. At one point, so this would be the scene. I'm going to see if I can do this in real time. For some reason, his intro, outro thing vanished on me. But the awesome thing about it is I can quickly, usually, pop it up pretty fast. So,
And Ryan, so that we understand that the presenter is coming into this environment in real time, right? That they're presenting
Yeah.
on this screen.
And we'll have, Justin's going to pull up like sort of a facsimile, like a green screen version of that. But the whole thing was built, and we've done a couple projects like this where, so like there, you see him comped into the environment there.
Yeah.
But I mean, we did a project for Dick Clark Productions where we comped Gwen Stefani and Blake Shelton into the Bluebird Cafe from Nashville, but they actually were performing in LA, but it was a real-time composite. So they were on a green screen studio, but you can do those on these LED stages as well, the XR stuff, which is very cool.
And so So the way this happens is in the studio, there's a little puck on top of the camera that when the camera moves around, it tells the Unreal camera to move with it, right? So
Yep.
make sure everybody understands what's happening there. So he's got a proxy performer in there. So this would be a person presenting, and then the environment changes based on camera location or camera motion, right?
Right. And the again, just the cool thing about doing production this way is that you have a set that you can shoot from literally any angle that you can recreate with your actual physical camera rig. So in with XR, you can extend it off into infinite space, which so like in this, we had a bunch of stuff out like floating around in the starry night sky that you can see passing by out there. This whole stage was kind of like Asgard hovering in the infinite expanse. So it just it frees you, takes the shackles off, because in a normal production for something like this, you're locked into the angle that you shot it from, and then you have to render that stuff. And there was no rendering here other than printing the final, to tape or to film, or to, I guess, to a file these days.
Yeah, that would be. Ryan? Do you have the design frames from this at all?
Yeah, I do.
Actually, if that would be cool to show, or maybe we could cut them in when we go back through.
Yeah, I'll take over sharing here real quick.
You can stop mine.
So I'll just really quickly bust through these. These were like the original design sketches. So like designing sort of the layout, envisioning it, and this is all this stuff is all extracted from their logo, which is that A. That you see repeated and hidden in here. So trying to think about how do we reinforce the vibe, but also give it like sort of this superhero meets Star Trek, futuristic sort of monolithic space that you would never actually build in real life or go to the expense to do this for just one conference. So it starts out with some sketches like this, and then these turns into these are actually just straight up lifts from the environment that you just saw as we were designing it, and kind of like working through it and figuring out the different textures, the level of reflectivity on certain things.
Not to bring up the economics of the situation, but was there a cost savings of doing this in the virtual or composited world, using Unreal, versus if they were going to, carry out this, trade show in real time?
So
outside of COVID.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think what it probably, I don't know how much this would have cost them to do, like to build something like an actual physical set that's anything even remotely close to something like this at the scale that it is would have been astronomically expensive. But to do just like, so essentially even though COVID sort of forced their hand to do an event this way, they ended up with a much more dynamic presentation. And it probably did cost a little bit less because they didn't have to feed anybody in real life or anything like that. But it made it so that these people were giving like sales presentations. So not necessarily the most enthralling material, but I mean, it probably was to them, but being an outside party, having this virtual environment where we could shoot them and do cool like dolly and crane camera shots while somebody's presenting, and I can show a really quick like a sizzle reel of what some of the stuff looked like. So, and we did do some more curated and like developed graphic stuff like this for intros and outros, but like during presentations, we had these camera moves and foreground elements that were all augmented reality, changing the environment, evolving it, having it move around and transform. So that's kind of what it looked like in different executions.
Nice. So I'm going to round third here because we're almost at time. So I think to our audience, for the students, where do you, if they're interested in this, what should they think about as they sort of think about a high school senior, right? What should they think about if they want to get involved in what you're doing? Either Ryan or anybody, I guess, can answer.
I'll start, and then I think you guys can jump in. For me, just having like a good design sense is crucial to designing anything. So studying design, but in a more practical sense, doing tutorials, it's amazing that Unreal is free, first of all. So just downloading the program and poking around in it and wrapping your head around it is awesome. And because that, like you said, Ben, will give you a leg up, and this is where this industry is going. So understanding how to make real-time rendered artwork, 3D artwork, but it all has to be modeled somewhere else. So Justin can kind of talk about that a little bit, I think.
Well, yeah, and kind of going back to what you said about Unreal being free, the other piece of the information is they have an unbelievable resource library online, even just in their YouTube channel. If you downloaded Unreal and went on their YouTube channel, you could probably get to almost close to at least a good comfort level. If somebody asks you about Unreal, you could get really close just on those YouTube videos alone. And then their online manual resources and stuff have been invaluable for me because I have that experience in cinema. I've been able to draw parallels of finding things a little bit quicker, but it's pretty much open to anybody. So really just a curiosity to learn and a willingness to experiment, mess up, do it again, and then keep going, I think will get you a long way.
I think also, like, if you're not a designer but you find this stuff really interesting, we always are looking for people to help us implement stuff or build, like on the development side and doing blueprints and sort of figuring out different ways to hack the software and push it to its limits for what we need to do, because the whole industry that we work in is trying to make Unreal do a thing that it wasn't originally intended for, which is really cool. And people are finding out that it's extremely flexible, and the Epic Games is really cool about listening to the community and developing stuff along with us. So even if you're like, I can't draw, I'm not, if you have think about things in a creative way and want to work more on the development side of stuff, that there's always people making things happen behind the curtain, as it were. I don't know if Lauren, if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you're not exactly artistic, if you're not technologically inclined even, then my kind of job is probably a better fit for you, probably. If you're super detail oriented and organized, you'd make a great producer. And if you can communicate well with people, again, you'd make a great producer. That's really what you need as far as skills go. So it's not hard, it's just a lot. So that's what I would say about that.
It's a lot. You have to be patient and perseverant. Patience and perseverance, probably.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, we're creative in deadlines, and we're creative in budgets, and it's not necessarily artistic, but it's still very creative in a lot of ways.
Great. So I'll leave you with, I'm going to put a button on this. Thank you, Lightborne. Thank you for coming in and running us through your process. It's really gracious of you. And I would just encourage all the students out there, like the stuff that these guys are doing, they're doing it at a pretty high level. But like, as they've said, the tools are available to learn now. I can attest to, like, my 12-year-old is on Unreal Engine and loves it. He's not as good as Justin yet, but they're out there for you to be able to learn. The accessibility of knowledge is unprecedented. Take advantage of it and use your time wisely. Thank you so much for showing up for the TechOlympics, and good luck to you all.
That was fantastic. I hope this was such a great kickoff for Art Tech and all of the amazing things that we have coming this week. We have esports, we have a streaming crash course, we have a branding workshop by Max, Day in the Life of Designer, extreme design competition with Miami, so many great things. And if you do have the extra time, go out and look at those Unreal tutorials, because that sounds fantastic. And if anyone wants to watch them and then teach me, that would be amazing as well, because that's something that sounds pretty fantastic. So if we could go to the slides. Next slide, please. It is time for us to share with you all of the amazing winners from Cybersecurity Week. Now, remember, we are keeping a couple back for the award ceremony at the end of the month. We can go to the next slide. We have our photo contest raffle winner is Cynthia Shao. Our chess winners are Abe Tananji and Alex Akri. We have several fun committee raffle winners, Madeline Junk, Arnav, Zach, Chris Sharma, Zachary Romer, and then some of our big winners. Flying into your future winner, which for those of you who did not show up to the drone session today, I don't know what's wrong with you, but you should have been there. It was fantastic. It is available in Whova, so you can go back and watch it. But our winner today of the DJI drone is Nico Printosito. So I apologize if I mess up your name. I'm super sorry. We also have our runner-up for the most engaged student of the week. That's going to be Weston Ruhlman from LaSalle High School. Our most engaged student of the week, and this is our second week in a row. I feel like someone needs to jump in and try to kick him off his throne, but that's Jeff Zhu from Lakota East High School. And Jeff, you've won a Bluetooth speaker. And then our big prize for the week, and remember, we're giving a Microsoft Surface Pro every week during TechOlympics, and it is not dependent upon your participation. However, you are only available to win if you have engaged. For those of you who have not shown up very much, you're not going to win much. So our winner for this week is Liam Kahn from the Grant Career Center. So those of you who have won today, please make sure that we have your address on file so we can send you all of your great prizes. Like I said, we have the Microsoft Surface Pro, we have Arduinos, we have Razer Death Adder gaming mouses and different gift cards, and of course that DJI drone. So we've got so much to give you. Please make sure we have your home addresses so that we can send them somewhere. With that being said, I've already told you so many of the amazing things that we have next week. We're also rescheduling ITNU and that chapter president's meeting that was rescheduled last week due to, the snowpocalypse part 1. Anyway, so next week we're kicking off Art Tech. We have an amazing amount of programs. Please tune in. And then this time, next Sunday, we will kick off Data Week with Yale Cossett from Kroger Technology and Digital, and a bunch of additional amazing programs for that. Thank you so much, and we hope that you have a fantastic night. There we go.